That's why I'm waiting a little bit. You are welcome. It's a pleasure to see you on this webinar. This is a new series we are launching, initiating with this first webinar about sustainability, sustainable business. Today we have very special and distinguished guest speakers. I'm going to present you, but before introducing them, I would like to give some brief information about our chamber and just few words to remind you, because some of them are members of our chamber, some of them are just invitees, guests. You are all welcome. It's a pleasure for us. As you know, Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce is an association in Turkey and accredited chamber in Belgian Chambers Federation. And we are, for almost 100 years established in Turkey, we are trying to develop business and commercial relations between Belgium, Turkey, and Luxembourg, Turkey. And also, we are helping to our members to develop their business, especially cross-border business. And if you are still not a member, I encourage you to become a member. For those who are members of our chamber, just I would like to mention and remind you that our General Assembly will take place in next week, in the 23. Then you are all invited. We are going to wait for you. Now, I would like to present our guest speakers for today. First of all, this is Ahmet Aşıcı. He's a professor at the Istanbul Technical University, and he's going to tell today about potential effects on the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism on Turkish economy. And secondly, we are going to listen Mr. Christopher Vanden Daele. He is a specialist in and he's talking about Belgian perspective and H.Esser sustainability strategy. And during the session, you can have some questions, of course. At the end of the presentation, we can get questions, but during the presentation, if you would like, you can write down in the Q&A part at the bottom your questions, and speakers during or after their presentation can answer. Then please, Mr. Ahmet Aşıcı, the floor is yours. It is your turn, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon all. Thanks for the invitation. I have a presentation, so let me first share it with you. So today I'm going to talk about the potential effects of the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism on the Turkish economy. So it's quite a new thing, a hot issue, and we kind of try to calculate, what will be the cost to the Turkish exporters of the European Green Deal's carbon border adjustment mechanism. So let me first just give you a brief info on the European Green Deal. So it was announced last December 2019. So the overarching aim is to create the first climate neutral continent by 2050 as Europe. And it is kind of a big transformation. And this transformation covers almost all areas, not only manufacturing industry, also energy industry, transportation, construction, food system, consumption and production patterns are going to be again evaluated via circular economy regulations. And it is not just the kind of, well, if you see the climate neutrality objective, climate change, you know, it has been highlighted, but it is also a very comprehensive economic and social program as well. And we see this social side of the story from the just transition mechanism on which the European Green Deal build upon. Okay, so how does the European Green Deal affect the Turkish economy? There are two channels, of course, trade and finance channels, okay? Through the trade, the carbon border adjustment mechanism is going to affect Turkish exporting sectors, especially the carbon and energy intensive sectors like cement, iron and steel, aluminum production, paper, chemicals. The Circular Economy Action Plan, which is the second channel, I think, and it is about like increasing the lifespan of the commodities production, like redesign of products to be able to reuse, easily repairability, and energy efficiency. These are all packed in the Circular Economy Action Plan. It is going to affect the textile and apparel industry very much. Also the ICT, electronics, batteries, and packaging industries are going to be affected by the Circular Economy Action Plan. So Europe, as you all know, is the most important trading partner of Turkey. As of 2018, it's almost 50% of our exports sold in the EU market. So in this study, we actually did it for TÜSİAD last year. We asked the following question: what would be the carbon bill of the Turkish exporters if the carbon embedded in the exported goods were to face a price of 50 euros per ton of CO2? Okay, so in the coming slides, I'm going to share you the sectoral tax rates we calculated. Okay, but the carbon border adjustment is going to be an extension of the EU ETS system. As you all know, the European Union has been regulating greenhouse gases in the manufacturing industry by a system called emission trading system. It is under operation since 2005. But this ETS has a problem, which we call as the carbon leakage. What is carbon leakage? So when you regulate carbon in Europe, you make the European firms less competitive vis-a-vis non-European producers, okay? Because due to the carbon pricing, the cost of producing inside EU increases. And this actually forced some of the EU firms to locate non-EU countries like Serbia, Macedonia, or Turkey. And it is problematic for Europe because once those factories migrate to non-EU countries, there will be unemployment, job losses, economic growth costs, and also there won't be any global reduction in the greenhouse gases, okay? So the solution is just to extend this ETS system to non-EU countries in the form of carbon border adjustment. If you do so, you equalize or level the carbon burden among EU and non-EU producers, so there won't be carbon leakage anymore. So that is the idea behind the carbon border adjustment mechanism, okay? So there are alternative methods. So this is kind of an extension of the ETS. I think the most realistic option will be the third one, carbon border adjustment as an extension of the EU emission trading system, okay? So let me give you some brief information. ETS is currently covering 11,000 energy and carbon intensive plants and power stations, okay? Only in some selected sectors. Again, these are mostly carbon and energy intensive industries like electricity production, paper, cement, iron and steel and stuff. ETS is concentrating only on the direct emissions, scope 1 emissions, that's what we call. And it is quite successful. If you look, I mean, when the system started to operate in 2005, the total greenhouse gases of the EU region was 5 billion tons. And as of 2018, it fell below 4 billion. And it is going to fall further as we approach to 2030 and 2050. Okay, so as you all know, there are, let me give you a brief description of the scopes, emission scopes. Scope 1 is the direct emission from the factory chimney. Scope 2 is the indirect emissions generated by purchased electricity. Okay. And scope 3 is the indirect emissions generated by purchased non-electricity inputs. So under ETS, as I said before, ETS covers only scope 1 emissions, but it doesn't mean that EU firms are not facing extra costs for their scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. They actually face higher electricity prices. They actually face higher transportation prices, for example, because electricity market, electricity sector also pays carbon price, and they reflect this price to their customers. And carbon emissions in the transportation sector, it's not under ETS, but under different framework, it has been regulated. So these also has some cost to the EU firms. Okay. So last week or 2 weeks ago, the draft CBAM regulation was leaked, and we now have a kind of idea what is going to be look like. The final form will be given by the EU Commission in 1 month time. It's going to be mid-July. Okay, so like it's going to start in 2023. There is a 3-year transitional period. And in this period, only the following products are going to be covered by CBAM: electricity, metal ore roasting, iron and steel, aluminum, cement, ammonia, fertilizers, nitric acid. Okay, so no paper, no ceramics, just cement from non-metallic minerals. It's rather limited, list actually. And not only scope 1 emissions, but also scope 2 emissions are going to be priced as well. Okay, so for example, if you have an iron and steel factory, you are going to pay for your scope 1 emissions, but also you are going to pay the carbon in the electricity you consume. Okay. It's a good one of the surprises. Free allocation will be granted to non-EU producers as well. As you all know, the ETS system has a free allocation policy to some selected sectors. Some of their emissions, they are going to, they are granted free allocation, like cement or in the iron and steel industry. These are highly protected industries in Europe. So the Turkish iron and steel producers, cement producers, they are also be eligible for the free allocation till 2030. Okay, so the non-EU exporters should buy for their extra emissions the CBAM certificate. Okay, and the certificate has the same price as the EU ETS, EUS. Okay, it's currently 50 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent. One controversial thing about the regulation is that the EU chooses to retain the revenues. Okay, the revenues generated by selling of the CBAM certificates will go to the EU budget, not to the countries. Okay. So this is actually the report. If you want to kind of learn more, you can just search for it in the internet. You can find it. And in this report, we actually calculated the risk and the opportunities of green transformation in Turkey. Okay, so because in action, if Turkey continues like this, like a climate denier, I'm sorry to say that, but we deny the climate change, it will have a cost. Okay, so and the costs are can be calculated as such. So this is the greenhouse gas emissions, sectoral greenhouse gas emissions of Turkey. Okay, look at the electricity. Our electricity sector is highly carbon intensive, and it is going to be a huge risk factor for the Turkish exporters, because most of the production in Turkey uses electricity as an input, and for cement industry, iron and steel industry, this high carbon intensive electricity production increases the scope 2 emission of this cement and iron and steel factories. Okay, so if we pay per ton of carbon 50 euros at the border, this is going to be the sectoral carbon bill, okay, in million euros as of 2018. Look at the cement industry. They are paying like 273 million euros. This is only scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, okay? And it is a huge, we can also divide it to the export revenues earned from the EU market in 2018, then we will have a kind of tax rate, CBAM tax rate. Cement industry is going to pay a tax rate of 21%. It's quite large, okay? So you can think it like this, in 2018, if you export 100 euros worth of cement to Europe, you can get 100 euro, okay? But starting from 2023, when you import 100 euro worth of cement to EU, you can get only 78.7 euros, okay? You will need to pay 21.3 euros to the CBAM authority, okay? Okay, so these are some rough estimates, okay? These are rough estimates, but when the CBAM authority will take effect, these Turkish firms in those selected sectors need to report their emissions, okay? So this so-called monitoring, reporting, and verification system, MRV system, okay? Actually, like 2-3 months ago, I did a research for the cement producers in Turkey. And if you follow the link, you can also see this report. And there they give me data from the 3 cement factories, okay? Plant 1, plant 2, plant 3, with different emission intensities. And I calculated their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions and come up with these numbers, okay? So it's around 10 euros per ton of cement. Export these plants should pay to the CBAM authority. These are quite big numbers, okay? So one idea is that, okay, EU is going to tax or price the carbon content of exports. What if we kind of set up our own, national emission trading system in Turkey? I made this calculation as well. So in those 4 sectors, chemicals, cement, iron and steel, electricity, the CBAM 50 euro cost, total cost is around 600 million, okay? But if we set up a kind of ETS system, national ETS system in Turkey, their scope 1 emissions and the corresponding revenues are around 6 billion euros, okay? So it's around 1/10 of the, let's say, the carbon bill, okay, under the national ETS system. So, in my view, it's a better idea to set up a national ETS system in Turkey, and the revenues generated, like 6 billion euros annually, will then be redistributed to the Turkish producers, okay, under the condition of green transformation, okay? So then there won't be a second taxation at the EU border. There won't be any double taxation. Rather than losing this 600 million euros to Europe, we can retain these funds in Turkey, okay? So, and it's not only about Europe. I think we are now entering a new era globally. All these EU, USA, China, Japan, they're also taking similar paths, okay? So we may face CBAM-like mechanisms in the future from US and China and in some other countries as well. So it's better to adapt to this new maturing climate regime in Turkey. So it's a risk, but it can be, it's a risk, but can be turned into an opportunity for the Turkish economy, because I mean, we need a new story, right? In Turkey, we all know about this. We can't go like this. It's not sustainable, neither economically, nor socially, nor ecologically. Green transformation will be a good idea for Turkey. That's what I think. If you don't do this, the cost of inaction will rapidly rise in the days to come, okay? It's going to affect our custom union modernization negotiation, for example, with the EU. So it's an urgent issue. So we need to kind of revise our INDC target, emission reduction target. We should definitely ratify the Paris Climate Agreement at the Parliament. It's a shame that we are only among the 5-6 countries that has not ratified the Paris Climate Agreement globally. And as I said, rather than losing 600 millions to EU, we can retain this money in Turkey by instituting a ETS-linked carbon pricing scheme in Turkey. So this is what I would like to say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmet Aşıcı. I get some questions in my mind, but very, very broad questions, then I'm keeping them for me for this moment. I don't see any question actually. Then I'm going to the second speaker, Mr. Christopher Vanden Daele. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So yes, Christopher Vanden Daele. I'm working for H.Essers. For the ones who don't know H.Essers, we are a Belgium family-owned company, but meanwhile quite a large one. Turnover in 2020 from about 800 million euros. And we have more than 7,000 employees meanwhile in more than 19 countries. So we're not just a Belgian player anymore. I think that we've heard already quite some interesting information, and I think that indeed a new era is there, and I think sustainability is part of that. And if you want to be successful as a company, the only way to do that is if you will take that into account. If you want to play in the big league in the future, it will be one of the big selection criteria that companies will take into account, whether you have a sustainable strategy, yes or no, and how you are dealing with that. So in that perspective, I'm going to share a presentation which gives some insights in what we think that we as a big logistics company should do, and which role that we can take in that. So let me just share my screen. There we go. As I said, I think that it's the key to the long-term success, and I have a short explanation about that one.
The key to long-term success is to embrace sustainability. It's what sets us apart and paves the path forward for future generations. We've been driving on that path since 1928, and now we're stepping up a gear on sustainability with a strategy built on 5 pillars. Caring for our people, their safety, their health, their talents. When they thrive, we thrive. Encouraging lifelong learning that powers R&D and investing in talent. As our employees grow, we grow with them. Creating meaningful employment that generates innovation. We're shifting the focus from profit to prosperity. Going the extra mile for our customers, literally and figuratively. We're fostering positive experiences at every step of the customer journey. When they're delighted, we're delighted. Reducing our footprint to help fight climate change. Our logistics, our environment, our responsibility. It's not words, but concrete actions that will lead this change. Check out our biggest achievements to date, our goals and commitments we will fulfill by 2025.
I think what we already want to mention with this video is that for us, sustainability is much more than only climate. I think we see that if you want to be successful as a company, you have to build a sustainable strategy. So there is for us a big difference. You can build a sustainability strategy where you will work around climate and so on, but your complete strategy has to be sustainable. So that is why we say that it's so important. And that's also why we said, okay, how are we going to do that as a company? We are going to look into some key segments where we can work on and there try to make a difference. Important also is that it's something that is being embedded in the entire company. I think that if it's only a few fancy slides in your company presentation, then you're not achieving anything. You really have to step up and make it happen. So we always say, okay, we have been one of the big developers in logistics, and where we have really made a difference in the past. So why wouldn't we do it when we think about sustainability? I think also there we can be one of the big innovators in that part. As I said, we want it to be more than just some fancy slides, and that's also why we built a complete governance around that, and that we are going to do more than only say, okay, we are going to think green, but we are also going to act green. What we did is we set clear objectives within the company, and we link those objectives to the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. We selected 5 of those Sustainable Development Goals, which we linked to our internal company values. And then we said, okay, for each of those objectives, we are going to set ambitions. So these objectives were then translated into 19 ambitions, which we can very clearly measure. And I think that's also very important to make sure that we can show the world that we are doing something. We want to make it very measurable. That's why we were collaborating with the GLEC, with the Global Logistics Emission Council, and we are performing according to the GLEC model. So we are measuring everything according to the GLEC model. And that is then in the end being consolidated and reported in a sustainability report. So if we go there a little bit more into details, we said, okay, these are the 5 sustainable development goals that we have chosen as a company, because we think that there we can make a difference as a company. And then for each of these goals, we created ambitions, which then resulted in 19 ambitions that we are now monitoring very closely in our sustainability work group. So what does that mean? Because we say, okay, what we have to define these objectives. We try to make them very smart so that we can measure them, we can report them, but we are also going to be very transparent in that. So that means that when you go to our website, you can download our sustainability report, and each year it will be updated, and we will show you the data from these 19 objectives, and we will show you whether we were able to make it happen, yes or no. And if not, then we will also elaborate on what we will do in the future to make sure that we reach the targets. Why did we choose these 5? As I said, there are 5 objectives that are really embedded into our company culture, where we say, okay, it's important. We are a service provider, and we're depending on our employees. So it's important that we look at the mental and physical well-being of these employees. That's very important for us. Furthermore, I think that because we are a service provider, and we also have to stimulate the lifelong learning process of everybody in our company, and also we have to develop and promote innovations. I think that as a company we want to grow, and I think that it's not something to be ashamed for, that you want to grow as a company, but it's something that even can help, because if you grow in a sustainable way, you are also helping the economy. And I think that for us, therefore, it's also important that we create meaningful and long-term employment in the long run. Innovation is for us key, and whether it's innovation in logistics or innovation in sustainability, that is a very important one. And then, of course, I think as a transport, as a logistics and transport company, I think that we have to take action towards climate change. So that is, of course, one of the big things where we also, which we also choose in these objectives. Some examples, when we talk about this good health and well-being, we have a Fit to Grow program where we stimulate our employees to actively perform more sports, where we have challenges internally. Of course, we have the medical checkups on a yearly basis, and so on and so on. When we talk about education, you have, next to the fact that we try to spend as much as time possible for employees in additional education, we also have a very big collaboration with different college institutes. If you look at our premises, our offices, and so on, We are there in the high-end infrastructure. We want to give our employees a decent workplace. On the other hand, we also want to create this growth. And an example of that is that, for example, in Belgium at this moment, we are looking for more than 550 new employees that we still need this year to realize our ambitions. And if you look at then internationally, where we need another 250 to 300 employees, it means that at this moment we are searching for almost 800 new colleagues in our company. If you look at the industry, we try to be very innovative. And I think that's also important because there, if you're innovative in your industry, then you're there to stay. And then you're also doing things differently, which means that you can also do them sustainable. Think about how we, if you look at the way that we are performing our transport, more and more we switch to this synchromodal thinking, which is very, very innovative in our industry and which is helping, of course, the climate. And then the climate in the end, taking action on climate, we do that in several ways, by building our own windmills, by making sure that we grow more and more in a synchromodal way, by investing in new equipment. Our trucks maximum 4 years old, to make sure that we have the latest emission classes, by investing in biofuel, and so on and so on. As I said, those are nice words, but in the end you have to measure it. And therefore we said, okay, we are going to put very clear KPIs against that. And that's for something which we said, okay, and that we will embed into our sustainability strategy. What we did is we emphasized our 19 ambitions, made it measurable, and I will show you also what it was. To make sure that we want to include everybody and that everybody is involved in the company, we held a survey where we asked to the people, okay, what do you think that is important? What is sustainability for you as an employee of the company? Where people were able to give their answers, and we, based upon those answers, we then made our ambitions clear. Because that way also the people that are working for us feel that they are part of this strategy, which is something that is very important because we will not be able to do it alone. How did we translate these 19 actions? Well, that I will show you now. It's 19 actions that we made very, very clear, but I have a very nice overview of that that I can show you. what we try to show here is that we made it very, very concrete what we are going to do and very measurable. And this is being translated in and being worked on as a real project throughout the entire company, and that is what we are doing at this moment. How do we do that? For example, the CO2 reduction, that is a project where we said, okay, this is of course for us very high on the agenda because we have a lot of own assets. We have about 1,600 own trucks, and of course that way we produce a lot of CO2. So we said, okay, this is one of the things that we have to work on very hard. Where we said, okay, there are 4 things that we need to do. First of all, we need to improve our CO2 emission, which means we will work with more and more the latest technology. All our trucks, Euro 6. We have the solar panels on our warehouses. We have the windmills on our sites, and so on and so on. We try to avoid CO2 emission by using very good algorithms in our planning. These algorithms are matching the loadings and the unloadings in such a way that we avoid empty kilometers, that we optimize the payload from our trucks, and so in the end, we have less CO2 emission. On the other hand, there is also the shift which we have to work on, where we mean that we have to shift from road to alternative transport methods, where we then say, okay, in our scope, this means that we have to shift more and more to rail and to short sea and inland water solutions. And then in the end, there's an offsetting model where we say we are more and more trying to offset our diesel consumption by buying biodiesel, which is then completely CO2 neutral. So today we have a solution where we can offer our customers a complete bio-neutral or CO2 neutral solution for the transport from A to B. And I believe that that is going to be very, very important in the near future. And then the fact that it's more than words, we know that there is still work. We know that if you look at it, I think that with all the actions that we already took, and looking at the windmills and looking at the solar panels and all the kilometers that we do by rail with for example, the rail connection from Belgium to Romania to Turkey, still we have these 1,600 trucks, and we don't have to hide ourselves for that, and they use a lot of diesel. But it's the fact that we are working on it that is already very meaningful. Yeah, these are some graphs where we see that we have been working on it and that our CO2 reduction is working. But in the end, we said, okay, let's build this sustainability report on a yearly basis as from now. Let's share it with everybody who wants to know what we are doing. So it's available for everybody. And we also internally built, yeah, I think an important one is that our sustainability report is also being audited. So we built the standards according to the GLEC model, but we use Vanden Daele, which is then a real standard in the world of certification, and they are certifying this sustainability report. So they are validating the numbers that we are telling in that project to give our all the people that are involved with us, whether it's our employees, our customers, our suppliers. It gives them really the idea that we are working on it and what we are doing. As you see, we have now a strategy till 2025 with goals that we want to reach by 2025. They are very, very challenging, but we are quite confident that we will reach it. And then again, we will sharpen the pencils and we come up with new targets, of course, after that. Internally, it's sustainability steerco has been set up. We report this directly into the board and then into our leadership teams to make sure that it's being promoted throughout the company. So that's a little bit the insight on how we as Essers think that you have to deal with sustainability. I hope that I've been able to show you that for us it's much more than words. I think that it's the only way that if you want to build a company that is in the game for the long term, it's something that where you will have to take responsibility and will have to work very hard on. So thank you for your attention, and of course, if there are questions, no problem.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Thank you very much. Dear guests, dear participants, if you have questions, now you can write down on Q&A part at the bottom of your screen, or chat part, you can write down your question. Meanwhile, we are waiting. I have a question to Professor Aşıcı. If when you present us the cost of carbon border regulation we are facing and actually in force. Just I'm thinking what could be broadly to the cost of generally to be aligned with the Green Deal. Are there any works about that? Because you mentioned the cost of carbon border, but what could be generally a Green Deal alignment to Turkey? What's the cost?
Oh, well, it's a fair question. That I mean, in one way or another, we have to calculate. To my knowledge, economy-wide calculations I'm not aware of, but I know the electricity sector. Shura is a kind of think tank working on this issue very deeply. So the transforming the Turkish electricity sector requires $10 to $15 billion a year. Okay, so in order to kind of decarbonize the Turkish electricity sector, okay, like shutting down these thermal power plants and then setting up windmills or you know, the solar panels stuff. So you need $10 to $15 billion a year. Okay. But as I said, I mean, in Turkey, we have our own resources as well. Because if you look at the OECD statistics, Turkey is one of the top countries collecting taxes in terms of environment. Okay. Environmental taxes in Turkey in percent to the GDP is quite large. Maybe the world's biggest after maybe the Scandinavian countries, okay? But the problem in Turkey is that we collect this money, but we don't use it for environmental purposes, transformation purposes. This can be done, okay? And also you can set up a national emission trading system in Turkey. As I said, our rough estimate, only 4 sectors, you can generate 6 billion euros a year, which you can then use it to transform the Turkish economy. So, as Christopher also mentioned, I mean, this is a good idea. This is not kind of, you know, we are not tree huggers. I mean, you don't need to be ecologist. You don't need to be hippie, right, to take these actions, because it is economic as well. you increase your profits, right? And you decrease the number of people kind of having workplace accidents. These are good things, right? And it pays off. So I encourage all these company owners here to take these messages seriously and start transformation immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And now we have a question of Miss Burke. Mr. Burke, so I'm sorry. Mr. Burke, please, you can ask your question, or I don't know, we can hear you. Mr. Burke?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, thank
Please.
you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Hans Brugge from TEP, BNP Paribas here in Istanbul. I have a question for the first speaker, for the professor. How will the EU determine, let's say, the taxable carbon base of a particular industrial company based in Turkey and exporting to the EU? If you have, for example, two steel plants, one plant might be, let's say, more dominantly reliable on renewable energy as source. The other one might be 100% based on conventional coal-fired electricity. How will the EU assess and make a difference between these two exporters?
I mean, I don't know very much in detail, but what I expect is that under the ETS, as you all know, I mean, ETS now in Europe is a well-established system. So we gather a lot of experience from there. How do they do this? So they have this monitoring, reporting, and verification system. In Turkey, we also had it. We set up our monitoring, reporting, and verification system. So basically, all your emissions are going to be calculated at the plant level. So there will be some agencies, independent agencies that are going to, that will go to these factories and make the calculations. So it's a fair question. It all depends where your electricity is coming from renewable or from thermal coal. I think those agencies will have some instrument to highlight this difference. Okay, so because the CBAM authority is actually trying to motivate countries to transform, okay, to decarbonize their economies, notably the energy sector. So this carrot should be granted to countries, okay? Companies are pushed to shift to, let's say, renewable energy, and there should be a reward to that. So at the end of the day, I am expecting CBAM to kind of be concise on this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for this question and the answer. If there are no questions, I'm going to close the session. I'm looking. There's no question. Then the guests, the members, the attendees, the speakers, I'm thanking to all of you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for participating. Please, we are going to do next webinars on this subject and also for other subjects. Then see you soon. Bye-bye.
Dr.
Again. Bye.
Bye.